You do it back in minutes.
Yeah, I move that we accept them as written.
Let's say it. All in favor?
Oh, sorry, I should.
Public comment. Public comment? New business, I don't have any. Old business. No.
You wanna do paving since Charlie's here for
Sure.
that?
You got questions?
I had brought up at the last meeting if there was any that we could kind of cut down on. And I had one in particular that I thought of, and then I started asking around, and I think I know what your answer's gonna, what your thought's gonna be on it. There's the paving in front of Rowell's Inn. The only thing is that I've asked around other people, and they're like, oh, you gotta pave that because of the drop off, but you tell me if that's what you're.
Well, valid point for sure. Chris and I were talking about it the other day. We could temporarily put that back to gravel or like a rat to try to buy us a little bit of time. My fear is all the salt that gets tracked off from Route 11 during the winter is gonna keep it soft and kind of mucky like it does where paved roads turn to gravel roads. And like you said, the elevation change on the apron there. We can shorten up, and I don't know if Chris wrote it down, I was hoping he did, I couldn't find the paperwork this morning. We were gonna go like beyond the bridge a little bit where now it's not. To kind of encompass the bridge that the deck has got some spots in it that are a little tender and as well as where the water crosses, the water crosses the road. We don't necessarily have to do that, so that would be a minimal save there. As well as I believe on North Hill, I think we're gonna go beyond where the end of the pavement is now a little bit. We always stop paving at the same exact spots and they end up being a low transition. Like if you're familiar with East Hill by John Bliss's, it's like a dip and the water sits
Right,
there.
yeah.
Every time you pave to the same spot, you gotta raise the gravel to try to fix it. As well as like town lines, you'll notice where the town lines are, because nobody wants to give the other town a little extra pavement.
Can you build it up in those spots? Like once they rip it down, can you build up?
Yeah,
the-
we can, and you kind of have to if we have them do the full reclaim like we want them to do. Because they actually till up all the pavement that's there and turn it into the new road bed.
Yeah.
And then put new pavement on top of that, so you have to match at least what they paved, which is gonna be about 4 inches higher than it is now,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
And then my other, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Another one is that I was looking into grants. Do we have any grants for this, or can we, there's a Vermont Better Roads grant program?
Which we put in for, but I think we're 3 years out on that right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I don't see our name anywhere on the awarded grants.
No,
But
when
is
we
it
did
something-
Hilltop, a town was awarded that $170, I think, $1,000. And they didn't want to pave, so they gave it to us that year, so we took advantage of it. So something like that may happen again, but when I talked to them, I'm trying to think, was this summer or this spring? I think we were about 3 years out
Yeah,
as it stood. It
right,
used to be like a 5 or 6 year rotation. Now I think it's like 7 or 8.
yeah.
This is every other year, $47.
Right, well, when I was reading about it, it said, but I didn't see that we had applied, or maybe we had, and we just hadn't been accepted at some point. But like I said, this is like really something I read very briefly
Yeah.
just today. So I wanted to ask about that. And do we put out, so this is Milton's rental? Oh, that's for our,
There's a paper, this is, the copy. Here, Charlie, I got a sheet here for you.
Shoot for me.
This is what we talked about the other morning. We did a map,
Oh, all right. Oh, here, we got it there. Perfect.
And so the other question was, are we putting this out to bid to a few different places?
We
or-
usually do, in the past, if history repeats itself. In my honest opinion, Fuller does a way better job. We had Basin do a stretch here from the Chester line up to about to the campground and then some on East Hill, and as, if you drive the road at all, you can see the middle of the road is kind of failing.
Mhm.
It's falling in, and I think, I don't know for sure, but I think it's a compaction issue. They didn't compact the center of the road very well before they paved, and it's kind of falling in. Fuller changed the mix, Basin spec'd out some particular mix, and I don't know what it was, and Fuller came to a select board meeting, Tom, and basically explained what that mix was, and he said there's no reason to do that around here. The work that he did up by Andover Ridge, there's 2 tiny little cracks on that whole section. And it's been, what, 3 years now?
Right.
Because
That's
crack
just before the
sealing
war.
has gone up. Yeah, we have to keep crack sealing. I didn't last year just because they changed hands.
Mhm.
And they really raised the prices. We were like $4,700 and you saying like 9,000 for the day or something.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have to revisit that with them. But if we don't crack seal, like on East Hill, there's some stepping cracks that are full width.
Mhm.
That are probably 3/4 of an inch to an inch drop between the 2 sections of pavement. And there's multiple of those.
Must
So,
be nice to the plow,
well, thankfully they're stepped more on the downhill lane, so it's like you're
Yeah.
coming down in grade. If it was on the other side, it would be bad.
Yeah.
It would definitely be bad.
So we're not required to just open bid it, we can just choose who we want.
I don't know that. Chris and I talked about it briefly. Not today, but last, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, Monday. I think we can choose kind of whoever we want. I think the fair thing is we've always thrown it out to bid to kind of keep it fair, but what I stressed to Chris, and it's not being recorded, I don't believe tonight, but, oh, it is we don't have to, like the person that I called, say, I just asked for a rough quote, not a hard number. I didn't tell him that he was the only person I was calling. So that's gonna keep him honest, the way I would take it. If I was to say like, I'm not putting this out to bid, then they could raise the price and take advantage of our town, but. That being said, I don't believe that would happen, so I think we can refuse all bids. I don't necessarily think it has to go out to a bunch of people.
Mhm.
That's something I guess we would have to look into.
Yeah, I had stuff, I mean, I don't know the quality of anyone's work, so I just know a few different names of people that have.
Right, there's usually 2 that we reach out to, sometimes a third, and usually we don't get a call back on the third. That's the difficulty we're up against now, is a lot of contractors just don't return calls.
Oh,
And I don't have time to keep hunting them down and,
Right.
calling and calling
and
and calling.
Fuller is out of
DMV,
Danby.
yeah.
You know, so locally, there's Hunter, which,
Hunter just started paving, yeah, so that would be a new one. We've never reached out to him before. Hunter Basin, which is, Westminster, we've done in the past. I think Wilkes in the
Wilkes,
past
yeah.
we've reached out to. They haven't reached back to us the last few times.
Does Belden pave or do they just do bridge work?
Belden, I don't believe paves, but Springfield paving was taken over by Jeremy Zula, who owns Sunapee Paving. They've done some patchwork in town. They do pretty good work. When I called before the ownership transferred, when I called Springfield Paving a number of years ago, he didn't want to bid because one of the old boards didn't give him, he was low bidder and they didn't give him the work, so he was upset about that, and I just explained to him that I was new, the board was new, but he still didn't want to bid, but things have changed there now, so maybe that's another avenue we can take.
Well, we also want a good quality job.
Right. The thing is
We're not saying that
with
anybody
Jeremy,
wouldn't do
unless
it.
things have changed, he would have to rent the machine to do the reclaiming, so the chewing up of the asphalt. Where I believe Basin owns theirs and Fuller owns theirs.
And when you say Jeremy.
So Springfield.
Springfield.
Jeremy Zulo, Springfield Paving, he
Yeah.
bid on, I don't think it was Upper Weston Andover Road, but maybe Hilltop Road, we got a
It
bid
could have
from
been
him at one
Hilltop,
point.
and then he did patchwork when we had holes in the deck on the high bridge before the bridge was replaced.
Mm.
He did that patchwork as well as some other small ones in town.
Mhm.
I know Basin's not, they're really not into patchwork the way I've heard lately. They'd much rather do bigger jobs,
Mhm.
which 1.37 miles is a pretty good job, so they probably would bid on that.
The sheet looked like what we talked about, Charlie.
Yeah, I didn't see, cause Daryl and Josh are the ones that measured it all, so I don't exactly remember like where they cut off. I know we discussed it briefly, but yeah, that's what we talked about. So there's areas we could save. It's, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty minimal. But if we wait another year, concentrate on fixing the culverts that need to be replaced. And then possibly paving next year, we would have a little more in that budget too. So maybe the problem is, my fear is the payment's gonna go up again. I mean, he gave us a high price. Because he didn't know the cost per ton of, the liquid, and the liquid
Right.
depicts the cost of the asphalt, so.
Oh, this is just a little bit of an aside, but I would like Robin to ask her the question that she brought up last time about if we do the MERP grant and we mess around with the garage doors in the town shed, then is there gonna be some paving that would have to be done with that?
So the yard over there is real bad, especially in front of the salt shed. There's a hole that's 6 inches deep right now. We try to patch it during the summer. It's just not holding. It's just falling apart. So what needs to happen over there whenever we decide to do it is all the asphalt that's there now needs to be pulled away because it's too high. So when we get slush in front of the doors or even snow in front of the doors and it melts, it runs in across the floor. So to get good drainage away from the building, which is key, it needs to start with a subgrade. So the pavement needs to come away. We need to grade the gravel underneath and then leave an allowance for whatever the amount of pavement is that we're gonna do. So that's a pretty substantial job.
So you would wanna piggyback that on?
I don't think we could do that.
Oh,
at the
okay, so
same
that was
point.
my
No, I
question.
don't think we could do
Yeah.
that at some
Okay.
point.
It's just a
That's a
separate
real
thing.
large project.
Okay,
But if we're looking in, well, not, but if we are looking at the MERC grant and some of that's going to address things going on at the garage, if we indeed end up getting it or going with it. Is paving or would paving that or not paving that hold up any of the,
That I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly
Okay.
don't know. Something we'd have to look into. I don't believe it would hold anything up, but I really don't know.
I'm just thinking of like if you were going to have doors replaced, I don't have the sheet in front of me.
Yeah,
It's right there in
But
the middle of the table.
you know, if water's gonna be sitting up against
Right.
that door, they're probably not gonna wanna put a new door. No, I understand what you're saying. I just
How
don't
many
know.
doors are on that list?
I don't believe they've looked at any, like, outside drainage when they came to, I think that was all inside the building.
right, yeah.
So I would doubt it would affect it, but it's
Mm.
certainly a question to ask.
we can't do any paving there until we deal with the foundation thing.
It's not the foundation,
Oh.
it's just grade work.
Okay.
It's just, we need to do some grade work around there. There's a lot of standing water all year round. So things need to change. We need to get water off from the road and the parking lots and that sort of thing, so.
Okay, so that's neither here nor there.
Well, then probably,
It's a whole different project, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
So do we have to make a decision on this tonight? Or are we just kind of looking at it? Can we get bids from other places or what do you think, Chris?
no, I'm not making a decision tonight.
Yeah, so do you think it would be wise for us to ask for other bids or?
Our procurement policy says that we will consider at least 2 bids for every job like this.
Yeah, so then that's what we should do.
Yes. That's the proper thing to do.
Right.
I would think.
I mean, and it's written, you can deny,
Of course, right.
you know,
Right.
any bid, but it's just, it's keeping it fair is what it's saying.
You're putting it out there, you're providing the information, you're asking for bids from a variety of companies.
Right.
Well, that would be my choice to do it that way, you know, and. First, we look at the quality of work that we come from. the
That
bid
changes year to
also,
year
but-
too. I mean, you get a new crew, you don't know who's there, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of things to consider.
And then the fine print and see how much payment you're actually getting per mile.
Yeah. Alright. Well, do we need to make a motion on putting this out to bid? Or do we wanna wait until Chris is, or?
Wouldn't you
till
wanna wait
Richard's
for a new
here?
board to be in place?
Wait for the
I'm just
board?
asking, it's up to you guys, but I'm wondering if you wanna wait for a new board, I don't know.
I was kind of thinking we should do it. Oh, we still have Chris.
Well, Chris is gonna be on the road.
Oh,
he's gonna be
oh,
on the road
okay,
commission.
oh, okay.
So another thing
I mean,
is
that
to
might be-
consider is if we're not doing it this fiscal year,
Right.
then would a new board make more sense?
Mhm. And I don't think that, you weren't hoping to get it done this fiscal year
Oh,
anyway.
I'm definitely, I was hopeful that we could get it done this year because it's needed, especially the beginning of North Hill on the Weston Andover side and Middletown Road for sure. The thing is to catch
the
it before
Oxbow.
it gets real bad,
Mhm.
The Oxbow's bad.
but yeah, but I understand the reasoning, and the cost, everything's going up.
I'm worried about the taxes going up because everyone's getting reassessed and then
Right,
adding a
right.
huge project on top of that. And what
Totally
that's-
understandable. There is a significant amount of culvert work that needs to be done and it's beyond what we can do, at least several of them. There are 3 between the High Bridge and the beginning of the Oxbow that are 12 to 16 feet deep.
Mhm.
We don't have the means to do those. And they're not in good shape, so I'm all for changing the culverts before you put all this money into paving over the
yeah.
top of it. We did it on East Hill, we did it on the Weston Andover Road, we did it on Hilltop. I just wanna keep going that way, be proactive and one got us that we went over, it looked fine and we left it, and then that's the patch now on Hilltop.
Mhm.
Because we thought it would last and it didn't, so
Mhm.
we definitely don't wanna have new pavement.
Those never last. I feel like those don't really last. Patches are not your fix.
No,
Often, so
exactly.
I don't feel like they.
Well, I don't mean to jump in, I'm just, didn't you, we talked about this and set an appropriate budget or what you thought might be enough to cover these types of projects, if I'm not mistaken, right, Chris? Didn't we talk about raising that outside contracting budget
Right.
line so we could get those culverts done and
Yeah,
with the idea that we were definitely going to pave this summer?
yeah, the only drawback to that is the deep culverts. Is a compaction issue.
Yeah, we discussed that if we wanna give them a little longer to compact.
To settle in. And do you think, would you believe that's a wise idea to do
deep,
that?
For sure, I mean, the contractors know what they're doing, most contractors that are gonna do that work. We did one deep one on East Hill, it held fine through the paving, but you never know, you never know.
So what are you proposing to us that you would like to see?
I think it's completely up to you if you wanna try to do it this year or next year, but with the culverts that we have ahead of us. And scheduling somebody to pave. I honestly think it's gonna be difficult to get it done.
And we don't wanna be in a situation where our culverts drop
Right.
and then we have to repave because you have to ground it or do a patch, and we don't want to patch,
I
because we'd be back to the
Don't
same.
really think that would happen, but it's definitely something to consider.
Does the same paving company do the culverts too?
No.
No, so,
No.
so can we replace culverts and then just kind of have how long can you let it sit before you really, I mean, it's gonna be a mess before you
Yeah,
get a
you
professional.
bring gravel up to the top and then you have to shim that spot. with
You can't leave it like that
blacktop,
for,
Not for the winter. And that's why I wanted to do the culverts one year and paved, because then we wouldn't have to put pavement back over the culverts
Mhm.
temporarily. So now we do culverts this year. And then you're gonna have to patch pave that area that you disturbed. And then next year, you're gonna grind all that new pavement up.
Well, I think, I mean, I don't know any, I'm the least. The least savvy about any of this, but it sounds to me like we should go ahead with it.
I'm just wondering where's the money coming from?
Well,
But you budgeted for it.
we budgeted for it.
Yeah, I think
All of this?
the one, I think the
I
one,
haven't seen that, so I don't know what it says.
so there's, I think that came out that high bid,
578,000.
Chris, I think it was 530,000. That was what he went a little high on the asphalt, the per ton price. He thought maybe around 90, but he didn't know for sure. But he thought as high as 98, so he gave us the 98 figure, just rather be safe than sorry, so to speak. And I think we have just shy of 500,000 now, and you get another, what did you guys up it to, another 85 after July 1st? So there would be enough to
I went
cover
to
that.
100
Or
on
100.
July 1st.
There'd be enough to cover that, and I believe there'd be enough to cover the culvert work. I always try to supply the culverts because we get a pretty good break on the cost, and most contractors are gonna buy the culvert and then mark it up a percentage. So I always tell them up front that we'll supply the culverts, because I think that saves us a little money in the end. We don't have enough culverts to do it, and the culvert our cost is about $12,000 just in the culverts for that project there below the Oxbow.
So what if we keep this on the agenda and we wait until our next board comes together? And would that give us still time to put this out to bid? Or would we put it out to bid and then,
Seems like we could put it out to bid and then the new board would have something to look at.
In 2 years worth of paving.
Or if you put something out to
What's that?
bid,
2 years worth of paving.
No, it would be just one.
if you put something out to bid, can you decide not to do the job that year? Or does that commit you?
you wouldn't have your bid any longer, your bid would go.
You could probably do it contingent upon. You know, if only if the culverts are able to get done or something like that, but it's gonna be really hard to like award somebody
Right,
the paving and then say, oh, no, we're not doing
oh,
it.
yeah,
Right,
so it's a serious thing to ask for bids.
Oh, for sure, and then scheduling is super difficult to try to get everything. in
do you
order.
think if we waited until our next board is established and we put it out to bid immediately, that we would have enough time to do the full project?
I don't know what that looks like, so it'd be town meeting day, which is the first week of next month, right?
Right.
And then.
It'll
So
be a month from today.
realistically,
A
would
month
you
from
say the
today will
end
be the
of,
first meeting of the new board.
so the 10th? So I mean, unless you really acted on it then, you're talking the end of the month, 'cause two more weeks is the end of March. I don't know, that's honest, my gut's telling me. Probably if we're gonna go along with it, we need to be moving on it sooner than later. Because we gotta have time to get contractors to look at this culvert work as well as paving contractors look at the paving work, and then schedule everybody to fall into place accordingly.
We don't even have our full board here right now
Right.
to make a decision, and we don't have another meeting until
In 2 weeks.
in 2 weeks.
I mean, if you have to wait, you have to wait. I mean, it's all it's gonna be is a few weeks, one way or
Or
the
we can
other.
have this same conversation with Richard and Melissa here later in February, but we wouldn't wanna ask you to have to come back.
I don't mind coming as long as it fits into my schedule.
Uh-huh.
So as long as you give me a heads
Well,
up,
what do
I
you
can
think,
usually
Chris?
make it work.
I'm gonna ask you, do you think we should?
I don't know, it's a hard call because you try to say anything, you didn't even get to work on. You probably have to put it up to bid, like you say, contingent on whether we can get the owners plan.
I mean, realistically, I'd love to see it all happen, but when Chris said the other day, like, I think we're gonna wait a year to pave, that's why I was like, well, at least now I know we can get the culverts done and then pave next year, and then there'll be a little more in the budget, but.
But we do have to pave over the culverts. We
We
can't
will
leave
have to
those,
pave
we
over.
can't just
Right.
compact them and leave them with gravel until we pave again.
No, because you'd have to make it through winter and we have to salt the asphalt and you can't salt over the gravel.
So that's why the year that you do it, you'd wanna bang,
Do
do it
everything.
as really
Yeah.
early in the
But we
spring.
need to do
so
our
you
Realistically,
have-
have to do it all.
You have all season to let them settle.
Yeah, you'd wanna do the culvert work fairly early in the summer and then like fallish time pave, so they have a lot of time for traffic to go over them, compact them down. Rainstorms do the best. Takes the airspace out of the gravel.
So,
We can do hilltop benches, we can put all those in one summer, then pave the next. one.
Yep. No, we did them all and then paved that end of that year. Yeah, Christmas, I think, was on the board then.
and what's the cost to patch the culverts? Is that,
It's still gonna be that per ton price, whatever that per ton is, it's just. When you're 16 feet deep, I mean, you're either using a trench box or you're cutting the surface really wide. Cause you want a little narrow trench and be down that deep, it's unsafe for anybody to be in and, you know, people would be fined, the contractors would get fined if OSHA or whatever was to come
Right,
by.
yeah. Yeah.
So it all depends on what the patch is. It's not significant, but it's still gonna get chewed up the next year if you patch pave. Which turns into road bed, but still, you wanna spend the money to do a nice patch for 6 months
6
and then
months.
tear it up the next year.
can we table this, or can you tell me, Chris, whether you think this is a good idea to table this until the next meeting, so we can have Richard and Melissa weigh in, or,
Everybody up, you know,
pardon me?
I gotta be honest, right,
With the idea that we're gonna put it out to bid. That's kind of, I mean, I don't wanna make that, I don't feel like I know enough about this on my own to make that motion. To put it out to bid right now. I wish I did, but I don't feel like I do. It's not that I don't have a lot of questions, because I do have a lot of questions to ask, and. You know, I value whatever your opinion is on this.
Right, no, understand totally, but we all know, everybody in this room knows that. You know, we're looking at contractors to look at our buildings, nobody's calling, we put bridge work out in Boynton, nobody's calling, so. I mean, you don't know what's gonna happen, and we could put out these culverts and not have one contractor wanna do them, and then you can't pay.
Right. So. Should we be moving forward at least with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mm.
And do we need to? Make a motion on that tonight? I mean, we know that we need,
that would probably be a good idea.
that has to happen before the paving, so I think that should be voted upon.
so, I mean, I don't mind putting a motion out to. Put our culverts, start the conversation with putting it out to bid for our culverts that you're going to buy, and then we'll do the contracting. And then maybe. Next meeting, we'll talk about this with Richard and Melissa here. How does that sound to everyone?
Were they both here the last meeting, so at least they're.
They
Talk
are,
about
like,
this.
I would think that they would be able to. And I don't like to say that we can't do it, but at the same time, there's a. Like you said, it'd be nice also to have some ideas about the culverts.
Right.
I personally don't, I think it's kind of a waste of money to patch. To me, that doesn't sound like a very good idea.
Right.
Um,
I don't think we're risking much by waiting 2 weeks.
I don't either, and that's why.
But I agree that it sounds like we need to go forward with the culvert. So when we go forward with the culvert stuff, that means that you start buying them and we put it out to bid. Who's gonna do it?
Exactly.
Well, I make a motion to have you start the culvert project and put that out to bid. Somebody needs.
And that would include like just immediately purchasing them too. Or just more
Yeah.
like in 2 weeks, you'll have prices.
Soon, I give a call, get this year's
Yeah.
pricing, I don't know what this year's pricing is.
Yeah.
My numbers were off from last year's
Yeah.
pricing.
Yeah, well, I would second that, very much, and then it sounds like we'll need you to come to the next meeting.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yes or no, you know, I mean, I think that the rest of the board will probably.
It just, yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't think we have much choice, so.
The road saying, everybody say aye.
I,
Aye.
We're supposed to do the whole thing then. And then the road commissioners report, and trucks are all holding together. And the crews holding together.
Hold them together. Yeah, I can fill you in on ordering the next truck.
Mhm.
So I met with Mike Murray, who's a salesperson for Viking, and he basically said, if we had a truck, the cabin chassis in his yard, as of last week, it's about a 9-month build if he has your truck. So I guess within the next couple of meetings, I'd like to get your input or full board's input, however you guys want to do it, as when you think we should pull the trigger on ordering the cabin chassis. I talked to Craig briefly the other day and he said I really should check with Mike first before signing any paperwork, so I stalled and had an appointment with Mike. And that could get worse, but that's what it was looking like as of last week. I don't know if these tariffs and different things are gonna affect any of that. The bodies are Viking built in a Viking facility in Canada. So he thinks that's not really an import of, you know, from another business. It's an in-house, just an international company, so to speak. So he doesn't think that's gonna affect, the time at least, and he didn't think it was gonna change much on the cost. The cost was, he actually gave me a quote today, it's $106,000 for the package. The plow, the wing, the body and all of that, and Josh's truck when he ordered was 105. So that didn't change much at all. And I believe the truck's gonna come in right around the same, which was 155-ish.
Or are we needing to make a motion on accepting that quote? And
Well,
going forward?
You heard what Craig said about there being a real long list of people that are trying to get trucks. What he explained to me was because we're gonna go with a standard transmission,
Mhm.
that we should jump over a whole lot of those
Right.
orders.
Yeah.
Because there are no Allison transmissions right now. They're all sold out. So anybody that ordered a truck with an automatic transmission is waiting. If you ordered standard like we will, you should jump right over many of those people and have a truck built sooner. But I don't have a timeline from him until you guys say we should really be thinking about it. I'll call him and see what he thinks. I can meet with him.
Well, I think you should call him, because I know this is on our,
Well, I know we talked about it before. That's why I called him a while
Right.
ago
and see what he thinks about the build and when it, I mean, about the truck and when it
Okay.
would come in.
we won't sign
Yeah, we
anything, but just a verbal, just to find out what he's thinking, a realistic delivery
Yeah.
date would be.
Right, because then we can know what we're gonna, how we need to deal with the next.
I think we wanted to be in fiscal year
outfit.
26 anyways with that truck, I think, if I remember correctly, what we discussed.
Here's 19, right?
19, yeah.
So yeah, if you could make a call, what do you think, Chris, is that?
We got a quote, so. He's got us marked out for a truck regardless, right?
I told him we wanted a spot, that's as far as it went, and then when I asked him how quick I should meet with him, this was a long time ago, this was months ago. He said, don't worry about it right now, because you want a standard shift. He said, I'm not worried about it, I'll just put you down as wanting a truck in the near future. And then when I called him 2 weeks ago and said, I'd really like to discuss this so we can get the ball rolling, he said, talk to Mike, and that's why I set up the meeting with Mike.
Yeah.
And that was last week, so that's where we stand.
You know what I mean? Year 26, you're 9 months ahead of that.
Right, exactly.
Right,
25.
right? March,
Yeah.
April,
We're gonna be in 26. I mean,
Yeah.
if I ordered it tomorrow, we're gonna be in 26.
Yeah.
Would be my feeling. If it's a few months to get the truck, 4 months to get the truck and 9 months to build it,
right,
it's over a year's time right there. And we're already in 25, so.
You're likely not gonna get it before spring of 26.
Right. But as long as it's before July of 27 is what I'm saying, as
Yeah.
long as it falls in that 26 fiscal year.
right.
I think you kinda wanna plan it so you have it in the summer before you start plowing with it too.
Ideally, but who knows if that, I mean, we see that now with Josh's truck. Supposed to be here this, the end of December, and now they're saying we won't see it this winter, so. And that was almost guaranteed to us.
Almost.
It was a, be 100% truthful with me, I don't care what you tell me, give me a crazy date, and he said. July 1st or January 1st, you'll have your truck 100%. I said 100%, 100%. And when Josh just went up to go over the build, they said, you won't be plowing with it this winter,
Yeah.
because they can't get the bodies.
And we could run into that again,
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the weather, you can't
right?
plan on anything.
Well, I would make a motion that you, and I don't know if I need to make a motion on this, but that you would call, find out what the truck date, what the date would be, and it would be nice to have the new board as it comes along, part of this too, but at the same time, this is part of what we're doing as this board, so.
Right.
Do we need to second it? Is it a motion? Do I have to make it as a motion?
I think you need a motion to do that.
Yeah, you don't need one.
I think because we already discussed it in
Yeah.
Yeah,
the previous meeting.
That would be my opinion on it.
I think you need a motion to actually, if you're gonna do it.
If we're going to actually purchase the truck. Would we be making a motion with 3 people on the board?
Probably not.
Yeah. So we'll table this one until next meeting.
Yep.
Make the motion to purchase it, but you will call.
So I'll call him, I'll find out a rough
Mhm.
delivery date of cabin chassis or said cabin chassis.
Hmm.
And then next meeting, if you guys talk about it, then you can say order it
Right,
or wait, but at
Hmm.
least we'll have the timeline
right.
to share with the rest of the board.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That would be great.
Yeah,
You guys already voted last November to order.
To order
this
it.
truck.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's when I called him and said, we want to order one. He said, I'll just put you on as wanting one, but we won't order it yet.
Well, you've approved ordering.
we approved it, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess now,
It's good.
that being said, if he says 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, should I just have him order it? And not wait for the next meeting? I guess I need your advice, I guess, on this as a board.
Say, if it's gonna come in and you still have 9 months to wait, you better order it.
Okay.
That was the gentleman.
But we don't want it
yeah.
to come in
That was
before
Craig.
2026.
Yeah, he
That
came,
into the
yeah,
meeting,
yeah.
A few months back, or a couple months back, I guess.
But if it came in, well, we still wouldn't get it. We wouldn't actually have it in our hands until 2026. We don't want it to arrive to our
The
lot
build truck,
before
we
that,
wouldn't.
right? But aren't we using another truck as a trade-in, I believe?
We'd be using the
Right.
one that I got currently.
So, but that won't arrive. You won't have to give up that truck until the other one actually is in our,
That's how
okay.
it works, yeah.
Yeah.
Days gone by, it wasn't necessarily that way.
Yeah.
You made the deal, you gave up your truck and you waited for the new one, but
Right, and that wouldn't work.
no.
Charlie would have to be using a shovel.
Yeah.
And but then a new loader plowing.
Right, yeah, right. So should we just make the motion to keep the ball rolling, order your truck, and then let us know when the outfit is there?
Yeah, I'll plan on being here next meeting and we'll
Okay.
just discuss whatever I find out from Craig.
Okay, that'd be great.
Any correspondence?
But we're not really discussing Mark tonight then.
Oh, yeah. Heard about that. On my agenda.
I'm sorry.
Do the MERP,
Okay.
or we gonna, other stuff. I have any questions on that.
I don't really have any questions. I thought we were gonna wait until we see some bids come in for once we put it out to bid.
I don't have any new information. Anything she emails me, I forwarded to everybody.
Mhm.
It has gone out to bid right now, right? Have you got
We haven't
any,
gotten any bids back.
anything on it? Not bids, but have you got any questions at least? No, nothing at all.
Just that one person that somebody gave us a bid before they even knew what it was exactly.
All of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we
That
kind of,
phishing email.
right. I think we have to wait and see if because if we don't even get any bids in, then, it's a mute
Point.
point.
Well, then you have
Unless
to
we
look at.
look
what do
at
we do
whether or
instead?
not, what do we do instead, but we do have to give that time frame until we get the bids.
Mhm.
And then if indeed we don't get any, how do we maybe
And start reaching out to contractors and
contractors and go through the list of what's most important, what's our priority and
What was the time frame? Do you know?
The bids are supposed to be in by the next meeting.
Oh, okay. Perfect for the next meeting.
and if we don't have any, then our next course of action would be to get out our checklist and be our own GCs somewhat, to say we'd like to look into doing A, B, and C on this list.
Right.
And who do we, is that what we're thinking? Say, for instance, we're gonna replace Windows,
yeah,
you know?
you want to be the GC?
I don't think that I do.
I think it's calling like Wright Construction and Russell Construction,
See if they wanted to do
see if they
like
do it.
X amount of projects.
If they want the whole thing.
Well, I guess we can wait until the next meeting and the big should be on.
Maybe we can be proactive and take out that outfit that did send them bid and see if they're a reliable company.
I tried to look them up.
Hmm.
I didn't come up with anything. Did you try looking them up?
Who's this?
I don't remember the name of the company actually, but
Before we even sat down with Martha to develop an RFP to get an architect or an engineer to GC this whole thing
Yeah.
and decide what the scope of work would be, some company sent us a proposal to oversee our project for us because they saw that, basically they sent the same
Received
email
a
to every
grant.
town who received one of these grants.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So it's not a company, it's not local, nobody we're familiar with.
Mm.
Well, pretty much. This is a tricky one because you put it out for bid, but yet there isn't really any company that I can think of that's gonna do such a broad job from a furnace to windows.
Well, the RFP though is for an engineer type person like an Everett
Okay.
Hammond
Okay,
to
that
look
would
at the
step
whole
that one. That
thing.
makes more
And then
sense.
make a scope of work to then be responsible to get contractors
Yeah,
for
okay.
each of the projects within the scope of work. Cause I mean, we have a sort of a laundry list of things that Martha wrote into the grant that said, well, we would do this, this, this and that, but
Right,
who knows if the money would even last long enough to do all of
to do
that.
it all.
Mhm.
So
I
ideally,
question whether it would when I looked at the
ideally,
list.
you want a professional to look at everything, look at all the assessments, proposals we had done, and then figure out, okay, well, what can we do?
Yeah.
And prioritize and all that, but
But I mean, once again, I don't know anything except what I kind of gather from the last couple of meetings, but if we had to choose between the three buildings, I'm getting the idea that the town garage is the one that's in most desperate need of help, or is that not really true?
I think it's all in how you look at it. I think each one of these buildings has its issues that need to be addressed. And I can't really say that the town garage would be above any of the others. I mean, definitely the windows are horrible over there. The insulation upstairs I know is not great, but I know the insulation over at the town hall is not great. And
But the town hall's not used very much.
no, it's not used very much, but the biggest thing that we have to remember about the town hall is it's a designated shelter if there's an emergency.
I see.
So I think in the back of our minds, we always have to think of that as, do we need to put people in there? And if we put people in there, is it efficient enough?
Although
It's really
I,
kind of a scary thing that it's a shelter because I don't really think it's set up to be a shelter.
I'm a little concerned with the vermiculite that's in this building,
Right.
because I mean, I don't like the idea of Jeanette sitting in a building that has, if we have the opportunity to do something about that, and the funds to do it.
I second that.
Because you're here all the time. You are spending the most time in this.
The good thing about that, I'm not taking anything away from it because I agree with you totally, is that's only airborne if it gets moved around. You know, when it's just sitting idle, it's really no harm. But it's still, so I mean, if I was in here every day, it'd certainly be a concern to me,
If I were in here every day, it would be a concern to me.
for sure.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go crawl around the attic,
No,
you know.
no. But again, let's wait for the bids to come in. If any come in, if they don't, then we take the next step, reach out to people. See if anyone responds. And if not, then I guess we have to then think about what we're gonna do at that point. We're not the only people that'll be in this situation that are getting these grants.
No.
There'll be many, so.
Correspondence and financial orders.
First correspondence, my community nurse project sent a thank you note and you remember Regina, she came to town meeting last year.
Yeah.
And then we had the annual letter from the Vermont Journal, to be our paper of record. And she quoted a price on here, so basically, if this sounds good to you all, you can make a motion and approve that.
Does it sound a lot different than last?
Doesn't sound a lot different, certainly is increased, but the Telegraph has increased, and by statute, we are still required to have
A paper one, yeah,
tactile
yeah.
newspaper to
Yeah.
print things in, and it seems to be the most logical.
Right, well, I certainly make
It's
them.
the only one that's the most
Yeah.
widely available around here.
Yeah, I mean, it's delivered to all of us, so, yeah, I mean, I would make a
Everyone.
motion to just do the same as we did. Remind me, Jeanette, like, it sounds like it's really important for us to have this next meeting, like, if there were a blizzard next in 2 weeks, we can have, we are allowed to have a Zoom.
We can do
so-
Zoom only, yep.
And can it be a combined Zoom and like say, can some board members go on Zoom and others not? Is that if we just request?
We could. Mhm.
But I mean, in general, I just was trying to remember.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's always okay to request a hybrid meeting.
Okay. So if like one of us got laid up or something, they could join. Okay.
No blizzards this year.
Right,
I hope not.
we don't have that new plow truck.
Yeah.
He's not here.
So I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.